All right, guys. Well, welcome to Seller Sessions. In fact, this isn't my first time on Seller Sessions as a podcast, but it is my first time as a host. So I am Adam Heist Runquist. We're going to get into why I have two names. So that'll be part of this. But really just wanted to dive in today. We are live. So if you guys have some comments, feel free to jump in. But really just an intro to kick things off. I'm going to be coming on once a month onto the podcast, talking about a bunch of different things, and we'll get into that. But today's topic is really just to introduce me. I want to get into my background a little bit in case you don't know who I am, why I joined the podcast, why I'm doing this. And then, the world is always shifting underneath our feet when it comes to Amazon. And 2023 surely will be no different. So I wanted to just dive into how I'm looking at my Amazon businesses this year, and hopefully you guys can kind of, through my dissection of my businesses and strategies for the year, hopefully you guys can glean some of that stuff too. So I guess to kick things off, why am I doing this? So I think, as most people know, on the Amazon journey, whether you're building your business as a full-time entrepreneur or whether you're working the day job and working the Amazon game at night, it's a pretty lonely journey a lot of the time, right? So we're in our heads, we're in our businesses. It's difficult to talk to your partner about it, friends, because it's its own nebulous beast. And so for me, when I first started getting into Amazon seriously about 4 years ago, I learned and I found my space, my people through podcasts, through YouTube videos. That was kind of my healthy space to learn and expand my journey. So a couple years ago, when kind of when COVID kicked off, I decided to do flip the camera on and do some stuff on YouTube through my channel Adam Heist, just to learn more about myself, to share what I've learned, etc., and kind of give back, because literally I would not have been where I'm at without the content and people in the space that have kind of contributed. So Dan and I have been buddies just through that connection of me having the YouTube channel here for the last couple of years. We've seen each other at events. Cracked off some beers and good conversation. And so as that relationship's matured, when Izzy dropped off the podcast last year, he hit me up and said, "Hey, would you be interested?" And my criteria is really threefold for things I do at this point in my life. One is, it's something that I'm excited to do and excited about. The second is, am I working with people I like and care about and I'm aligned with, and can I do it in my own way? And kind of all those three boxes were checked. But the big thing for me, honestly, is I want to share. That's kind of my root intention with all of this. Not always right, not always perfect, but I feel like when we share and when we kind of lock arms, our small little kind of quiet, lonely world becomes less lonely, less quiet, and we all become better as a result of it. And I get along really well with Danny and Sharon as well. They're good buddies of mine. So that's why I'm here. I guess as a background to me, in case you haven't heard, I've done a deep dive on the podcast here. You might have heard my story before, but generally speaking, a bit of a backwards entry into Amazon. Spent about over a decade in the energy space. We ended up through that path buying a company in the physical products game called Goal Zero, based out of Utah. I've been out here in Utah now for 5 years. And as part of that process, from acquiring that company and digging into it, Amazon was just one of the pieces of the puzzle. A small piece of the puzzle because they were mainly retail and global, but spent my first 3 weeks on the job in China and really just discovered the end of YouTube as we kind of locked in on growing and scaling Amazon as an opportunity. And I would say about 6 months into that, I think, like most of us, no one envisions themselves being an Amazon seller in life. I don't think we grow up saying, "Hey, that's our thing." But I think what a lot of people arrive at Amazon at is they want to live their life in a different way. They feel like the structure of a normal job and career, waking up to an alarm clock, driving into work for an hour, being in meetings all day, driving back, turning on Netflix for a couple hours, going to sleep, rinse and repeat. I lived that life for a very long time. And so for me, Amazon was an outlet out of that. And so during that process, I started my first brand. About a year later, I started my second brand. And I sold that first one in June of 2019. So I've been at this solo full-time entrepreneur for about a year and a half. And the bottom line is that Amazon's a fickle beast. It can be challenging, frustrating, all of it, but it has unlocked that freedom for me, and it has been incredibly rewarding. I'm kind of obsessed with it, even though it's a it's sometimes an abusive partner in some respects, but it really has been fun building brands and sharing how I do it. And so that's my story. That's why I'm on the podcast. I'm really excited again to lock arms with Danny and Sharon, and more importantly, kind of share everything I can with the community and give back and make it a more fun and less lonely and more successful journey for all of us. I'm going to do a lot of stuff, mainly interviews. Like the thing that I find really interesting is finding those people that you don't know in the space and understanding their story, understanding their wisdom that we can kind of impart on ourselves. I think those conversations are really fun. I enjoy having them. And they were really rewarding for me as I was building my businesses, and they are today. So I would say, 60, 70% of them are probably going to be in that vein. And then other things are just going to be kind of deep dive topics as I build and grow and scale and get bloody noses, building my own brands here in 2023. So I wanted to kick things off. Sharon's in the chat. Good to see you, Sharon. I think I was her first interview and first podcast on Seller Sessions. So we've come full circle, Sharon. Good to see you here. But let's talk about 2023 strategy. Again, I think that Amazon is always dynamic. Amazon always has its challenges. It always has its rewards. And I think it's probably been more dynamic than ever here the past year. Certainly in my business, there's been a lot of blood in the water and there's been a lot of things to deal with. So I wanted to walk through my process that I've gone through here since October, looking at my financials and my P&L, thinking about how Amazon's changing, good, bad, and different, and really how I'm positioning myself, my businesses to grow, scale, and come out the other side stronger. And hopefully there'll be some wisdom and some nuggets here for you guys. Ryan Kramer, man, awesome to see you. We haven't met in person, but obviously know you. Glad you're tuning in weekly, brother. So let's talk about P&L and costs, the fun stuff. We got into this for freedom and to live life on our terms and to build cool things with cool people. But accountancy probably wasn't one of the things, and operations, logistics weren't the things that were high on our list, but it's definitely a necessary part of these businesses and certainly has been here significantly over the last year. So in October, I started looking at the P&L, as I think we all should. And more importantly, I was looking at month this year versus month previous year and just seeing how the various line items have changed. So I want to walk through this. I've talked to some other buddies and people in the space, and I think this is pretty congruent with what other people are seeing in terms of their P&Ls. But what are they? And more importantly, what can you do about it? So first of all, Amazon fees. So this is anything from referral fees to the FBA fees to storage fees, etc. They've gone up. I mean, that's the reality. We all kind of see the charts that Amazon puts out, and it's like, oh, it went up like 13 cents here and 22 cents there, and it doesn't seem like much. But when you look at things in aggregate, storage fees, FBA fees, all the things that come out the other side, what I've basically seen is an 8% increase in those fees. Some of that has been because I've been introducing larger tiered products, which obviously makes things a little bit complicated. But the bottom line is that your profits and our profits have taken a hit and will take a hit in 2023 and beyond versus what they have been historically from an Amazon fee standpoint. So that's point number one. The second point is 3PL fees. Seeing the need to use 3PLs about 1 to 2 times more than I have historically, which net has shaved our profits about 5%. Because of inventory restrictions, because of shipping logistics stuff, and just the complexities around logistics and supply chain in general, have to store more stuff at warehouses that aren't Amazon. Less time on trucks, more times on concrete and in warehouses. So we've seen that go up. I'll talk about that again later. Ground freight, we've seen go up about 3%. So we've got an 8% shave on Amazon fees in my business, 5% on 3PL, and a 3% on ground freight. Again, because we've had to store stuff more and send it to more Amazon distribution centers, we've just seen that go up. And then I think the behemoth and the beast that has been absolutely unavoidable has been Amazon pay-per-click. There's obviously more placements available. There's more branded players coming out of COVID from retail that have since entered Amazon, and they're willing to pay for spots to get eyeballs. And pay-per-click's gone up. We went pretty hard to grow the business and run some experiments last year, but we were up into like low 20% tacos, which we discovered pretty quickly that that's just not tenable. And so it's taken a ton of time and attention, as I think it has a lot of sellers, to really wrap your head around Amazon pay-per-click. It's gone up, CPCs have gone up, organic rank and options are less than they were historically. And so it's a necessary evil, whether you like it or not. We've since got that down to about 11% tacos, which is actually less than it was last year. But it was hard yards. It was 4 to 5 months of hard work, but we'll get into it. So if you add all that stuff up, assuming you didn't get kind of pay-per-click in line, you're looking at, 20+% margin shave just from the guts and plumbing your business. And that's what we've seen. So solutions to this. First of all, I think what's been really critical for me is looking at SKUs unemotionally from an ROI-based standpoint at the SKU level. So a lot of people will look at, hey, here's my Amazon fees, here's my COGS, here's my tariffs, here's my landed cost into Amazon. I'm going to deduct all that, and what am I left? And then I want an ROI north of 100% is what a lot of people go for. But because of these additional fees, those things change. So you have to rerun this analysis all the time. You have to relook at these SKUs at an individual level. The other thing I think a lot of people don't consider too is things like return rates. How has your pay-per-click changed? Actual Amazon costs, the carrying costs of your inventory. So one of the things to overcome that 20+% margin shave is to really look at your winners and your losers objectively. And that's one thing that we've done really ruthlessly here over the last little bit to get things in line. The second thing kind of in line with that a little bit is inventory turns and demand planning. So it's not only what is the percentage of ROI that you're getting on your SKUs, it's also how often are they turning. And I think a lot of people, when they talk about, hey, how do I want to build my team? What's the first VA I want to bring on? Historically, it's been like easy stuff, so to speak, right? Like customer service, just kind of button pushing, things like that. But I think now it's become more important than ever to have literally a dedicated person that lives and breathes and keeps one eye open at night when it comes to demand planning, keeping stuff in stock, managing POs, managing logistics, managing inventory turns. If you don't do that, all those cost increases I just talked about will basically put you underwater and crush you. So we've had a really ruthless focus on metrics, on ROI at the SKU level, and demand planning has become our bread and butter and a core focus for us. The second thing is size optimization. Again, when things are easy, you don't have to work as hard. You don't have to sharpen the knife or the pencil. And so you just kind of, get stuff from the factory and send it in and go at it. And that's the life that we lived a couple years ago. But because of the FBA size tier fees that have changed quite a bit, one of the things is like centimeters matter. Sometimes you're 3 centimeters away from saving $4. So the other thing that we've done to overcome those fees is basically just to look at a SKU by SKU level, work with the factories, and not like designing something cool with a product, but literally designing boxes and seeing where you can optimize things. So that's one other thing I think that can help get in front of that stuff. See, Sharon's in here again. Yep, I was your first guest and now co-host. Couldn't have thought of a better person. You rock, Sharon. Appreciate it. The second is logistics is king. I think at least 30% of the resources in your business and the mental mind share of your business should be in making sure that either you or somebody on your team that has an effective process to manage this is looking at POs, it's looking at shipping, looking at minimizing how long stuff stays in 3PLs, looking at ground freight optimization, looking at optimizing what you've got in Amazon warehouses. Just here in the past week, we saw Amazon announce that they're going to a mode where they've changed your inventory levels and basically you can buy additional space if you want. So think of this like the pay-per-click of operations. This is not going away. And in fact, I think it's going to be one of the things that's going to set the Amazon sellers apart is how good you are at logistics. We want to think of the sexy stuff like how good your product, listing images, pay-per-click, what are your traffic strategies? All that stuff obviously matters. But for me, the people that win the logistics games are going to be some of the ones that win the Amazon game. COGS optimization. Again, when times are easy, you don't have to think a whole lot about this. You don't have to squeeze the sponge, so to speak. But we're in an environment now where luckily the US to RMB dollar for most of us that manufacture in China has gotten a lot more favorable for us. Chinese factories and the economy there is hurting and they're looking for business. They're scared about kind of keeping volume high. So for us, we've gone through a extensive renegotiation approach here over the last 6 months with our factories to lock in different COGS, primarily based on the tariff exchange rate, but also some of those things that bumped up costs in COVID, we're trying to call those back. So if you want to look at those 20% price increases that a lot of us have seen in our P&L, I think one of the biggest things you can do is to try to get your COGS optimized and really shoot for, can you get 10% out of your COGS optimization? And then in line with that, a lot of people haven't looked at their tariffs. What's the HTS code? What am I importing this thing at? Is it correct? Working with freight forwarders just to understand, hey, are we really logging this thing appropriately? Or is there a better, more efficient, more thoughtful, strategic way to get a tariff that's not as punitive in the US? So that's cost. That's the fun. Everyone loves going through income statements. That's what we did this year. And those are some of the corresponding strategies that I've come up with. Christina, see you coming in here. Logistics. Yeah, we all love it, right? So now the fun stuff like growth, right? I think, we've seen this margin erosion and there's certainly some things you can chip away at that. But another way to do this is just to grow your damn business, right? And it may be growing your business in a more challenging, less known way than we have before. But it's that learn and adapt mentality. So I'm going to go through what I think are the really core things for growth in 2023 if you're an Amazon seller. First, and Danny had just a spectacular presentation at Seller Sessions Live. It's posted on the YouTube channel as well as the podcast if you want to check it out. But it was all around pricing, and the so what of that presentation, that analysis is basically the top 4 or 5 organic SKUs at the top of SERP are the ones that are priced the lowest. Like, duh, so what? But I think a lot of us try to force our own price because of our own mechanics of our business, and we're handcuffed by that and we're rigid by that, and we spend a certain amount of ads, and so we just keep going at that price. Yeah, we do coupons. Yeah, we do lightning deals. All those things help. But I don't think that sellers are fundamentally looking at price as a lever enough and figuring out where that sweet spot is of where can I get the most organic rank with the least amount of ad spend with the most amount of total margin that comes out the other side. It may feel good to have a 45% margin when you're looking at it in a spreadsheet, but if you're having to run 18% tacos to make that happen, where if you just shifted that price down $3 to $5, maybe your margin percentage takes a hit, but you're generating thousands of more dollars a month in terms of what actually hits your cash flow and grows your business. So we've done this in a couple ways. And I think a lot of people will probably start here. One is basically just to do some concentrated pricing tests, taking a 4 to 6 week period, say, hey, I'm going to go from $24.99 to $19.99. I'm going to do this for 6 weeks. We're going to monitor our CPCs. We're going to monitor daily sessions, conversion rates, add to carts, percentage of sales from organic, percentage of sales from pay-per-click, and just see if it's different. And what I think a lot of you might find is that the lower price lever in concert with improving all those other variables actually makes you more money. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, but now is absolutely the time to experiment with price. We also literally just this week kicked off a project with an AI-based pricing software. I want to kind of run a case study here over the next couple months at least, just to kind of put it through the paces and see, but they're using dynamic pricing and taking data sets that literally a spreadsheet and you or I couldn't do, and using AI to kind of find that holy grail sweet spot price. So whether you're using manual methods, whether you're using software stuff, I just think that if you're not messing with price and testing price and finding out what your sweet spot is for the most margin, it's going to be incredibly difficult to grow. And this is something that doesn't require new launches, anything else. It's relatively simple with the same catalog to institute this. So that's growth area number 1. Growth area number 2, which has been an absolute gem in my experience, which is international expansion. Again, what's cool about international expansion is it's the exact same catalog. It's the exact same factories. You've got consolidated reviews that come over. You don't really have the same risk as a new product launch. Is this thing going to be successful or is it going to fail? Most of the markets you enter on Amazon, especially bringing those reviews over, tend to cross over into other geographies. So the paperwork's annoying when you do international expansion. You've got VAT and taxes and business numbers and all that bullshit that you don't really want to think about or worry about. But it's more predictable. It's got economies of scale. You're using the same factories. The logistics are pretty similar. And it's just, I think, one of the lowest hanging fruit ways to grow a business. So we have seen Canada add about 20% to our business. Europe's added about 10%. I'm going to likely roll out to Japan and Australia this year, again, all on Amazon marketplaces, and see how this goes. But this is one of those things, again, if you've seen your margins hit, 10 to 20% and you haven't quite gotten there with optimizing pay-per-click or COGS or logistics, you can add 10 to 30 points on your business this year if you expand internationally. So it's worth the headache. It's worth going through all the paperwork. I think that that's something that every seller needs to do in 2023 if you haven't. And if you have, it's time to look at other marketplaces and giving them a crack. The next one, which is a little bit more nebulous, and I think something that we're all going to have to get better at. We've relied on the Amazon traffic engine for a long time. I think the sweet part about Amazon is they've got all of the embedded Prime users. They've got the traffic. You just have to build a compelling product and offer and brand to capture and convert that traffic. Well, because that traffic's gotten more expensive and because organic positions have gotten more fleeting, you got to drive traffic off of Amazon. So getting branded search, having people seeking your product out, finding channels and paid media that has lower cost per clicks than Amazon, and using Amazon attribution to tie the two in together, both bringing in profitable traffic and driving organic rank. And then using PR strategies, SEO strategies on Google, TikTok stuff, influencer stuff. I think it's a time to experiment. If you're not experimenting, if you're not testing new things, and you're not turning over rocks and you're just sitting there, Amazon's going to control your destiny. And this is one of those ways that we're putting a lot of time and attention into this year to avoid that. The next thing is launches. I think kind of similar to international, there's some easy, clean ways to do this. And then there's, I would say, some riskier ways to do this. But one of the things for sure is variations. Again, we're going back to basics here a little bit, but a lot of people kind of get complacent in good times, and you got to sharpen the sword in tough times. So what are some color extensions, size extensions, bundles, style changes, taking, again, that existing traffic and volume that's coming to a successful ASIN that's already productive, adding on, you can, again, add 5 to 30+% of that SKU and that catalog's potential just by adding in variations. What I would say with this to think about things strategically, going back to the first point on pricing, is if you've got a product that you just can't price down, or you've kind of found that sweet spot with pricing and you're still off the cusp of where you need to be at the top of organic search, one of the things that you can do is looking at a cost optimized product. One of the things that we did is we got a lower size, basically a less expensive raw material product that coincided with another one. We launched it. It became the best seller, and has been spitting off just a whack load of money for us this year. And so there could be some simple little tweaks. Again, the same factory, just be like, hey, we want to make this, but we want to make it smaller, lighter, less expensive materials. We want to hit the COGS of this amount. Can we make this happen? If you do, you can launch that as a variation. And it's sometimes a really clean way to pick up and convert organic traffic and spend less on ads. And then you've got this catalog of, hey, do I want the value play that's maybe not quite as sexy as the main one? And then you've got the upsell, more premium, heavier priced, heavier margined products. So in terms of launches, the first thing I think everybody needs to do is look at where can you add variation extensions. The second is line extensions, right? New products, but ones that coincide with your existing traffic, your existing brand, that really coincides with people shopping on your storefront. And this obviously works really well when you're targeting a specific customer type and you've got that isolated. But what are those add-ons that, again, reduce the risk of a new product launch? And then I think the other thing is that just launching products and just being like, "Hey, I'm just gonna throw this out there," like, that worked 3 years ago, and you could get away with that, and it was lower risk. For brand new product offerings, they've gotta have just killer, well thought out offers. You gotta run it through the ringer of that, math that I talked about before in terms of ROI. But more importantly, I think product development, building unique products. Imagine you're not on Amazon and you're, a proper brand, so to speak, and you're in retail and all these other things. You got to think about product development like those guys do. It's no longer just the throw something up and it sticks and has a decent price and you just play an arbitrage game, China shipping into Amazon. Those days are done. You've got to have really thoughtful product design that involves molds, customization, just well thought out understanding the customer type products. And then you've got to coincide that with honestly just kick ass listings. I think that it's easy to think about a product like I'm just going to spend like $500 on these photos and then we're going to throw it up and see what happens and do the keyword research and just keyword stuff things and just that'll make it happen. I think people need to think about, hey, if I'm going to be spending 15% of this product's revenue on pay-per-click, you need to be thinking about how much of that budget could you use to build a really good product and build a really good listing. Because in terms of long-term investment, you're going to convert better, you're going to spend less on ads, you're going to get more organic search, you're going to get higher margins because you've got a better offering that compels customers. So I think offer development, when you think about launches, is critical. So I would say the final thing, and this is something that I'm hoping to do a series on. So we've got some interviews that I definitely have planned here for the pod this year, which is super fun. But part of selling on Amazon is honestly getting vulnerable, and we avoid the things that we don't know. We avoid the things where we don't have a lot of skills yet. It's scary, right? It's you don't know if your skills transition. But again, going back to the concept of experimentation, testing, trying new things. One of the things I'm doing this year is launching a brand off Amazon. Again, this has been a totally different approach than I've done before. It's required a significant amount of thought and development on the product side. It's required a significant amount of thought and development on understanding who my customer is. It's looking at stuff off of Amazon, paid media, funnels, getting email addresses. How do you use those email addresses? So I'm kicking that project off, hopefully April 1st. My game plan is to launch that on Kickstarter for the month of April. I'll do a presentation about it at Seller Sessions Live, win, lose, or draw, sharing the learnings. But the thought here is that building a brand and an audience and skills as an e-commerce seller in a more holistic way, and then using that asset to then parlay that into Amazon. And I think that getting branded traffic, getting off Amazon traffic, having an omni-channel presence where you've got skills that require not only on Amazon, but also building a proper business and brand. I think that's the next game. We talked about all the quick wins that everybody can implement here, both from a cost standpoint, as well as from a growth on your existing Amazon business. But I think the next game is adding this new skill set to the table. So I think you're certainly going to hear me talk a lot more about it here this year in terms of what those strategies look like. And I think that the brands of the future, if we look forward to 2025 and we're doing this podcast, I think that's going to be a consistent element and consistent skill set that people are going to have. So Nerve, good to see you, man. I don't think I've ever met you in person, but I always see you in comments and stuff. Congrats. I know that you'll be amazing. Just small request. Please keep the Friday guitar sessions nice. Yeah. So I played guitar for, I was like obsessed with guitar from the age of 10 to like 18. I put it down for almost 20 years and just started picking it up again and been posting stuff. So appreciate that, man. So that's it, guys. I'm really, really, really excited to share. I just feel totally aligned with the beautiful thing and the beautiful audience that Danny's built here. These kind of conversations, this kind of content is what helped me and continues to help me propel my business to the next level. So I want to contribute to that and kind of join a community of people and make this journey more fun, less lonely, more exciting. You hopefully heard my story a little bit if you haven't seen me on YouTube before, but that's my story. And then that's what I'm focused on for 2023. So really excited to lock arms with the Seller Sessions community, lock arms with Danny and Sharon. And as I like to say from one of my favorite movies, The Matrix, let's see how deep the rabbit hole goes. So that's show number one. Expect an interview likely for my session next month. But until then, guys, appreciate you welcoming me with open arms into the community. And I'm excited to crack off into 2023, build cool businesses, share cool conversations here on the channel, and make some new friends. So signing off from my first Seller Sessions episode. Cheers, guys.